town meeting. The entrances, the exits are clearly marked in front and back. Could you all stand for the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're here tonight for a special meeting, Thursday, April 12th, 2018, here in the meeting room, the Village Hall of Monroe. Thank you all for coming. The very first thing I'd like to address is just one moment, if I can transfer it a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, the first item is budget transfers. Everybody had a chance to look at the...
Yes.
Okay. Everybody understand?
Yes.
Okay. So, just a little background. The monies that we're transferring over into the appropriate line here have to do with fees that were collected from Gilbert Street. We're on a contractual obligation with them to, for the village, 4 payments of $34,850 over a period of time to offset the costs of a water agreement that the village has with the developer, Smith Farm. So, there. Okay. Good, right?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. I'd like to make a motion? Okay.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Call the question?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Okay. Old business, so obviously we have been working on the budget. We went through a preliminary period, including a public hearing on the general fund, water fund. After further workshop, the board has worked diligently on. We have addressed the general fund as well as the water fund. The general fund has a tax rate increase of 2.03%. Overall, budget of $10,158,483. The water fund had a $2,078,924 budget appropriation proposed. I need someone to make a motion that we adopt this budget.
I will make the motion that we adopt the budget.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Good? Okay. Call the question?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is a discussion on the 2019-18 carnival. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, so we had a resident who had a water account arrears. It's been problematic. There's been some discussions. It's a town account. And the board had taken the action at the last meeting that indicated that they wanted the bill paid and that the village, which has the right legally to shut water off, should the bill not be paid in full, would happen this Friday, tomorrow. Subsequent to that, we had spoken to the resident, and there was some conversation about the possibility of maybe some sort of an arrangement. However, the board did make a motion to not do that at its last session, and I bring it before the board again, just to have a discussion and see if there's any possibility that we would be interested in doing this. So, I'd like to take this opportunity, everybody could one at a time weigh in. Dory?
So I read through this, and I'd like some clarification on the sentence that says about his quarterly bills must be current.
So, obviously, he has an outstanding bill, but he
Right.
still accrues a bill
Right,
quarterly.
right, so my question is.
So he would pay the agreed amount,
Right.
which is listed above,
Plus his
plus
quarterly.
his quarterly bill.
Yes, so now he pays all of that by June, because the last installment of this payment plan is June 1st.
Correct.
He'll have a quarterly bill the following quarter.
Mhm.
He'll have to pay that. Now, are we going to follow through on the termination or the interruption of service if in the future
Well,
there is it's not covered?
so, right, so what happens is, once he makes good on his bill, he's no longer delinquent,
Right.
so he'll go forward. If he chooses to be delinquent again, as would anybody, I believe, from this point forward, they would come before the board and
Get it.
subsequently have their water shut off if
Okay.
that's the case.
Because twice a year, March and September, it's village code that indicates the village of Monroe can interrupt water service.
Right.
So in theory, he'll have a May bill to pay, his August bill to pay.
Right.
If those are past due, by September, the water could be shut off.
Could be
From
interrupted.
water,
Okay,
legal standpoint.
all right. I think it's fair. I think it's definitely important. Fair to him, and let's hope he does what he says he'll do.
Well, I also want to let you know that I spoke with him, and he gave us an email which actually started this conversation on Friday between Mr. Powers and myself, where he had said that he spoke to the Public Service Commission. And the Public Service Commission told him that he could pay whatever he could pay monthly. And so, me being intrigued by this, called the Public Commission Service and found that they do not govern our water system. So Mr. Powers didn't even make a phone call, according to them, it wasn't documented. There was no internet complaint filed, there was no verbal phone complaint filed. So it was just a story that he had resurrected to help himself. I spoke with both Ann Margaret, Kim, and, well, actually, and Shakeen about the situation. And his stories have fluctuated between the three of them. Still in all, I presented it to Mayor Dwyer, and this is where we are, so.
Okay.
I think it's a fair agreement, and, you know, I know the village isn't in the business of shutting people's water off, but we do have a responsibility, obviously, to collect and do our due diligence. You know, has he been receptive to this? Has it been when we spoke to
And
him?
he was receptive, but he was receptive to every deal that we tried to make with him prior to this. And that being said, he was also told, under no circumstances was I making a deal with him on the phone. If he did not hear from us, his water would then continue to be terminated. And he was also told if this does happen, the one time he does not make a payment, that's it.
Including the one that's due tomorrow by end of day.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
So, two things. The first thing is, after discussion, we have to consider whether we'd like to entertain this, and if so, we need to rescind the prior resolution.
Correct.
So, so just for clarification, your feeling is,
I think that it's a fair payment
Okay.
as a means of getting him current and maintaining the water for that property.
okay,
So I'm okay with it as long as the payment schedule is adhered to.
sure.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so the first business we have before us is to rescind the prior motion.
So,
Someone make that
so I'll
motion?
make the motion that we rescind our previous motion.
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, and then the second motion would be to,
I'll make the motion that we allow Mr. Powers to make payment plan on his water
within the terms of this agreement.
within the terms of the agreement set forth.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
How are we gonna get this information to him? Are we gonna notify him that this payment has to be made by tomorrow? We don't have time to mail it.
Well, we could call him. We could also hand deliver it.
And he has the option of paying online with the check.
He does, the only problem with that is that us in the clerk's office are not notified that that payment has been made until Monday.
Okay.
So he could come in with a card, preferably a debit card, because he could cancel a credit card transaction. But ultimately, cash or certified funds would be most reliable.
Okay, so we probably should try to call him tonight.
I'm not sure if it's possible, but since tomorrow is the end of business for the week, would it be appropriate to put April 16th next order of business? Or do you think we're governed by, I mean, I know 2 dates a year, I'm not quite sure, frankly. I'm not,
The reality is that the water department won't be going out to shut off water until Monday morning anyway. So,
And we made notification that it would be shut off on the 13th regardless, so all we're doing is extending another form of an olive branch, so to speak.
okay, so we'll leave it as is.
Well, I think we should change it till Monday, just because it'll give him time to collect the funds.
yeah, but then
Then you have
we're
to-
going to be waiting until 4 o'clock on Monday when the water department is going out 9 a.m. on Monday with the key to turn off water. So we're going to allow him to have,
I would give him to the end of business tomorrow, and then the thing is shut off on Monday anyway. You know? Okay. So, call the question?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
so then I would be notified.
Okay, so I think the way to go would be,
To have Ernie maybe hand deliver it, or one of the employees at the water department hand deliver it, and tomorrow morning, and I can also have to make a phone call to Mr. Powers tomorrow morning.
Right, then it's 2 weeks, then if you do it.
I can try to reach him tonight.
I think it would be fair to do it tonight.
Sure. I can try to reach him today.
And let him know that it will be handled tomorrow.
For his signature. It doesn't need to sign it.
you guys,
And then return it. We can mail him a copy.
so. Okay, next discussion on the 2018 carnival.
Oh, it says 1918. Yeah, that's fine.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
The budget, you know, is 1920, confusing.
Okay. So trustee Conklin has been working with different vendors to procure the best deal for the village.
Mayor Dwyer and I have been working on it. And I think we've narrowed it down, yes,
I think, yeah,
to 8.
yeah,
All right, so we actually vetted 3, and we decided to go with Ace Tent Amusement. I believe we negotiated an amazing deal. They've met everything we need, and then some, so we're excited, and we need help, so we need volunteers, and
they did do an awesome job working with us, negotiating the best deal we could. And they have a track record. They do have some local interests here, and they are representing the, I don't know if it's the Unified Fire District, but definitely the Harriman Fire Department. They do their carnival. And I checked out, they do about 5 different municipalities in the area and just on the tip of Rockland County. So we vetted them, and they're reputable, their rides are clean, new, well kept. Their staff does not stay on property, which is a big thing that we were concerned about in past years. They go home every night and come back the following morning. So that was a big plus, which always helps the police department from having to concern themselves with that. So if the board is all okay with that, I think we'd like to enter into an agreement with them.
Yep.
Okay?
so I'm going to make a motion that we allow Neil to sign an agreement with Ace Tent Amusement. I second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Next piece is a discussion on Roscoe Smith's acquisition. So this is something that's been going on since I was sworn in as a trustee here in the village. And I won't go into the blow-by-blows, but at the time that I first became aware of it, I was told that the remediation and restoration of Roscoe Smith would be between $3.5 and $5 million. And based on that, I could not see us burdening the taxpayer with that type of price tag, and thought that that would be a really poor decision on my behalf to support it. So the offer to accept what was on the table from the developer was now rescinded by the village board at that time. Within 6 to 9 months of that, I became aware of more information, and I wanted to look into it myself. So I reached out to the developer with the permission of the board and got permission to go on the property and do an assessment and evaluation and make an adjustment to the cost that I wanted to know what was involved. And I did that, and I've estimated between $1 and $1.2 million to restore that home, interior and exterior. Since then, I've been trying to get this acquired for the village, and I have not been successful for different reasons. Who knows? Who cares? I want to push the ball forward. I am absolutely committed to acquiring Roscoe Smith's property as per the developer's offer, and contingent upon a complete examination of the file and the land and the properties that are involved here. I'm going to encourage the board to consider it. I'm also going to reach out to our consultant, Mike and Tully, John O'Rourke, and I'm going to have him do a workshop for the entire board so everybody can be brought up to speed on what it is that we are going to acquire, or what I would like to see us acquire. And I think after that time, I think the 5 board members, including myself, would be well informed to know what it is we're gaining for the village of Monroe. As many have said and shared with me and believe in themselves how passionate they are about preserving our history and where we come from. And Roscoe Smith is right smack in front of everybody's mind. There's so many pieces of this village that relate to Roscoe Smith. And to honor him by keeping his property in his family's name by virtue of the village in perpetuity owning it would be a remarkable thing, and continuing a restoration project that will survive me and many boards to come. So I know the project is before the planning board and it's running along, I would say, I guess, as any project does. It's been chugging along. The site is probably a bit challenging to begin with, so they have a lot of things that they're doing as requested by the planning board. And I would like to be able to meet with council and draft a letter and very clearly state to the planning board what this board's intention is with regard to meeting with our consultant and vetting it and making sure this is exactly what we want to do and moving forward with that. So I'd like the board to consider what I've just said and allow me to reach out to the developer through council and with the support of this board and our consultants continue this process and this acquisition. Any thoughts from anybody?
I think it's great to have a workshop because it's been a while that we've talked about all this and we need to put it out there, everything that comes with it. I know as a kid I loved driving past, watching the water wheel, looking at how beautiful it was, and it's kind of a shame to see what it looks like now. You know, I love Museum Village. I know Roscoe Smith founded Museum Village and O&R. So I think a workshop would be a great idea just to bring everyone up to speed. Now, are you saying it's going to be for the board and the public, or the board?
It'd be fine.
Okay.
More the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. It's an understanding. It's to understand what it is that the developer has offered And the developer has offered for many years through the different boards, this property and pieces of it. My goal was to strengthen that offer, because I believe in a piece of that property that I think personally, when restored, will be the jewel of the village, one of the jewels. It's an absolute stunning project. So, but what we have to do is do our homework, and the next detail of this would be to first rescind the rescission of that offer made back in 15 or 16, whatever it was. Check? I don't believe we did. I don't believe so. We checked. We can check if we did in fact rescind it. I don't know, yeah. We can verify it.
Right, almost forever. I'm good with that.
Yep,
Fresh. Great, fresh.
absolutely. Okay. I think that completes that. We don't have any new business that I know about. And the only thing I'd like to say with regard to tonight's meeting was a special meeting specifically called, we were able to get a couple of pieces of work done as well, but it was the budget. This board has worked really, really hard to find the most equitable solutions, respecting the taxpayer and respecting the work that our employees here in the village do. And we so appreciate that from everybody's effort. I know Catherine Murray, our treasurer, has been amazing so far as, dealing with me. And I want to publicly acknowledge that. It's important that she does know that. This board is an amazing group of people that are committed to this community, as all of you are here in the village, and our employees as well. So from my end, I thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else like to say anything?
I would.
Please.
I would encourage Dory and Carrie to, I think we had this conversation earlier, go to every department. Your liaisons, but your trustees. And I think that's important to be said, that just because you're a liaison to Village Hall, or to the PD, or Highway, you're still duly obligated to do your best in every department. So you should meet every department head, meet the employees. We have wonderful, wonderful employees, if you haven't met them all. Get to know them. Get to see how they tick. John takes great pride in his work.
He makes a mean cup of coffee too.
And he makes a mean cup of coffee. His guys all take pride in their work. PD, I mean, they go without saying, they're an incredible group of gentlemen, or girls, who have tremendous, you guys, you girls right there. Girls. Well, everybody calls you the flower girls.
Oh, is
I don't want to call you the flower girls. Geraldine and Eleanor and the rest of the ladies who do the flowers. Also, you have tremendous pride in the community, but everybody who works with us. So be trustees, don't just be liaisons. That's my point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I honestly hadn't stepped foot in the police department, well, I was probably good, until I got on the board and, went in and kind of got to see behind the scenes and found out all the great things that are going on. I really didn't know much about Highway either, and then meeting John, and I went over on a morning, these guys go out early before I leave for work, and I went over there and just met everyone early in the morning, and, I would like to come to court one night and check that out. But, yeah. I agree.
Develop your own relationships with them. That's important.
I'm going to take that suggestion.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know all the departments. It's good to know, Catherine, to go upstairs within your liaisons and learn about the funding for this village and every little piece of it. And, if you have questions, if you need to ask it 10 times, you need to ask it 10 times. This is not our wheelhouse. We don't do this for a living. We just know that we want to be helpful and we want to be part of this community. And the way to do that is to be thoughtful and to be as complete as you can and as prepared as you possibly be. So that's what we're doing. Barry, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, public comment.
No problem. Again, I want to congratulate everyone on winning. As I've mentioned, at Home Depot, we congratulate you and the girls. Question though, I just want to confirm, you mentioned there was no new business for 4 years. Did you receive the petition filed to help Rest Haven to reserve it as an adult home residence? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, just to be clear, tonight's meeting was focused on the budget.
Right.
Obviously, it's not Tuesday, and the board is gonna, get up to speed on it, in this reorg process. One of the most interesting things that I find for me, having been on the board for 4 years, sitting over there, it's one type of seat, one type of cadence, one type of environment. And now when you're in this seat, and it's a week transition, let me tell you, you're hitting the ground running. I'm not suggesting this is the national platform, but it's pretty remarkable to see what you're stepping into and responsible for. So, to your point, we will be looking at it as we move forward.
Okay, and I'd like to offer to the board too, I know you've visited the house and Manager had visited the house initially back in 2017 when we had it open. I'd like to have the rest of the board also come and see, not only from the paperwork, but you're well versed in how you felt, you mentioned me, and I'll quote you because you had done the interview with us, is that the house is a gem and we want to work with the village to preserve it. And everything that in the past, let's just forget it, let's move forward and do the right thing for the village. I can tell you this, in about 3 weeks, we're going to be, 3 to 4 weeks or so, we're going to be contacted by the National Park Services, and they are looking to make the property a national landmark to the village credit. And we have found documentation to support what you spoke about, the significance of Roscoe Smith House and Museum Village. We have found documentation that both of those properties are also tied into our property historically. That the girls were involved and Roscoe Smith's house maybe was on some itineraries about programs that were held at Rest Haven. So that helps both you and I to really promote people to come to this community and see something. And at the same time, by us leaving as an adult home, we are able to fund it without public money, without any public assistance. And as you know, to date, I've always represented, and I stand by it, we've put about $1 million into their property. And we're just about completed with the kitchen, the bathrooms, and the 3rd floor, which there's no permit out on that stuff. But I would like the opportunity to have you guys come really see what this house is about and then realize that, you know what, there's something that can be worked out here between everybody. I'm also appearing, I just got the news today on April 16th, I'm appearing before the Town of Monroe Board, and I'm going to ask them for some permission because I've been notified that I will be receiving historical documents about this house, and they're going to allow me to put it on display, meaning the American Foundation for the Blind. And I've asked them with their 100-year anniversary coming up in 100 years, I want to start projecting towards that. And they've tentatively agreed, but that's where I think the town comes into play with the Monroe Theater or being able to put things on display at the house, but there's only so much you can do, obviously. To use the town movie there, which is now at the Monroe Theater, as also a display area to bring people in, so we can balance out the need of the house to the public, for people who do get injured, who are ill, who need some level of low-end care. So that parents, parents, kids can spend more time with their kids than, worrying about them in the early onset of problems. But we look forward to working with you guys. We want to make this happen with you. And we will even work with you on the Roscoe Smith house, because I think it's such a connection to it, the whole thing. So I appreciate your time.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prince.
Anyone else? Yes, John?
I want to thank you for getting the budget down a little bit. I did.
A little bit, come on, John, give us credit. I know it's gonna hurt, come on.
Well, I mean, there's things in here that I just saw tonight, but at the budget hearing, I had asked several questions. One specifically was last year's budget. How much money was not spent? I have yet to get an answer on that. treasurer or the two auditors that were here that night couldn't give me an answer. Can I get an answer tonight? Last fiscal year, how much money was not spent on the I believe it was 9,986 or 9,896. How much of that money was not spent?
Would you allow me the opportunity to find that?
I brought it up at the workshop and I thought I'd have an answer.
I can answer that, I'm not prepared to answer that today, because that's a totally different question than the budget that's presented. Okay, you're asking about historical from last year, I will get that to you. I have your email address,
I appreciate it.
JK, not KJ,
Hotmail.com. That's me.
got it.
Or we can see on Tuesday night?
Right, I should be here. What exactly is in the fund balance right now? Total?
If you're asking at this moment, but honestly, I'm doing two positions at the same time and budgeting at the same time. I do not have an answer for you, I'm not prepared to answer that today. I can get the answer to you.
I asked that question also at the,
It's an ever-changing thing, it's dynamic, it
I
changes
understand.
daily.
I understand that. I'm just asking,
I thought,
At the end of last year, it was $800,000 reserve fund balance. That's what it is today, it's a dynamic thing, the accounts do their entries, and it's different than what I can,
so if for argument's sake, there's $800,000 in there
at the end of last year.
at the end of last year, no money's moved in or out since then, correct? I would assume whatever unexpended monies from last year's budget would have gone in there, correct?
Wouldn't it be easier, John, just to email Catherine the questions so she would be better prepared to answer them when she's here?
You know, it wasn't just this year, it was last year I asked these questions, and I get blank looks. You know we're coming, we're going to ask questions.
You're doing a budget workshop, we're not doing a financial statement here, that's a totally different thing. You got financial statements, you got budget workshops. Two different things.
I live in a village
Maybe
of
separate
Monroe,
things.
I pay village taxes, and I'm asking questions.
And we're willing to give you the answers. We're just-
When?
Well, if you email her all the questions tonight, I guarantee you Catherine will have the answers to you by, what do you think, Wednesday? Is that fair, Catherine? Probably by Wednesday. Tomorrow, I'll have it by next week. That's fair. After I leave those. Nobody's saying we don't want to answer you, it's just, you know what,
I think it
John?
would have been fair when the questions were first asked, that somebody would have gotten me the answers. I shouldn't have to come back a second time looking for answers.
Agreed, but we were working very hard trying to get this budget
I
down.
understand that.
Meeting, and you know, we've had meetings, you were there.
And I'm trying to track your budget, and there's a reason why I'm looking for these numbers in fund balance.
Sure, I get it. I'm just trying to get you the answers you want in a timely manner.
It's here in public.
When you were married, did you ever know what fund balance was?
Yes,
During the
yes.
first year?
Yes,
I don't think so.
yes, I did know what fund balance was.
I'm sorry.
You're a village employee and you're talking down to a
I
taxpayer?
was treasurer, you never asked me what fund balance was during the first year.
guys,
I want to show you.
It's personal, I'm going to shut up.
John, you have my word. You come
Well,
Tuesday
I don't
night.
appreciate being talked
I
down.
apologize. That's not appropriate.
I'm just asking questions.
I get it.
Obviously, it's striking a nerve if somebody's got to come back and attack me.
I apologize.
Thank you. The last thing on your water fund, does your revenues cover all your expenses?
Yes,
All your expenses? That's
on the water line,
in your water fund,
yes.
total water fund.
Yes.
Okay. And the last thing, on the carnival, what's the name of the company you're using now?
Ace 10 amusement.
Ace?
Ace.
Were they the old Shamrock?
Are they what?
Were they the Shamrock?
No, Shamrock is still Shamrock.
We stepped away from Shamrock,
Okay.
but Ace is actually doing.
They've done Harriman for the last 3 years.
Harriman used Shamrock.
Harriman?
No, they walked away.
They walked away from Shamrock.
Justin LaMarche,
Yes.
someone else has negotiated to bring Ace on. Ace did last year, they did the Heroes for a Cure.
Okay, yes, that was, yeah, all right, that was up there, that was a different
And,
one.
and that was really great carnival, for the pieces they were able to put on the property. Since then, when we identified them, I asked them for 10 recent clients. I vetted all of them, including the Heroes for Cure, and then I found out about Justin LaMarche, who I know. And I think there's somebody else working with him on your committee or his committee. So I was
just curious. I thought they saw that Shamrock, but,
No.
okay. All right, good. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, we'll see you Tuesday, though.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything you'd like to add? Okay, having said that, I'd like to make a motion, or have someone make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we close the meeting.
That's it.
Yes, hold on.
Hold on,
I'm Bob.
I'll make a motion that we end the meeting with a 5-minute recess to enter into
Executive session.
executive session.
One second.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming tonight, I appreciate it very much.